Hey guys, my name's Micah. Today I'm going to show you how I do my basic male cosplay makeup. Today I'm going to be using Kageyama Tobio from Haikyuu as an example, but this makeup can work for anybody. I use it for Noctis from Final Fantasy 15, the unscarred side of Todoroki Shoto from My Hero Academia, and I use it as a base for my male toga makeup from My Hero Academia. Super easy, it doesn't take long at all, and anybody can do it. So, let's hop right into it. Okay, so I've started off by priming and applying all of my foundation as normal. It really just depends on what you do. I don't do anything special, which is why I didn't show it. I also applied jawline tape to help change the shape of my face because I'm personally quite uncomfortable with my face shape. That's a completely optional step. If you want to know how to do it, I will link another YouTube tutorial down below in the description. So, for the first thing we're going to do after applying our foundation is we're going to contour. For people like me who have softer feminine faces, I find contouring to be the most important as men tend to have more defining features. So the first thing I'm going to do is contour my jawline. Really just simple. I'm going to follow the contours of my basic jaw. Depending on what cosplay I'm wearing, I might contour my collarbones. I just move my neck in different directions and find out like where the shallow recesses are. It's not a necessary step, but I find men sometimes have more defined collarbones. You could also contour an Adam's apple, but that's not important. You could define your cheekbones. I personally do not. That's just for my preference. But if you did, you would go along the hollows of your cheek and make more of a more squarish shape. I personally just don't like to do that, so I'm not going to. But the most important contouring is actually going to be around the brow bone. A lot of people don't realize this, but men tend to have a lot like prominent brows and deeper set eyes. So I take my contour and I'm going to start going in right here, all over where like eyeshadow would be. All over the lid, and I especially deepen it right here in the inner corner. And I bring it out like this. It's not going to do a whole lot, but on top of everything else, it really is going to help set your eyes in deeper and it makes your brow bone appear more prominent. Then I bring that into a nose contour. I take the point of where your nose is the narrowest and go straight down from there to determine where I apply my contour. It's okay to be a little bit heavier handed with cosplay makeup, I find, because more often than not, you know, you're going to be taking photos and you want it to stand out in the photos. So I tend to do my makeup at home a lot heavier handed than I do when I would be going to just a convention. Next, we'll be working into some eyeshadows. We're not going to add a whole lot of eyeshadow, but we just want to add more definition to our eyes because this flat one color doesn't look too great. So I tend to take a cool toned brown color, nothing special, and I just start working it into my outer corner and the outer half of my eye. I kind of blend it over the lid a little bit, but not fully over. I tend to leave this inner corner with just the base contour color. Otherwise, I find then your lid gets too dark and sometimes you look kind of like you just got beat up. So I wing my eyeshadow out just specifically for the character. More sterner characters I tend to do this for, but then characters that are like more happy-go-lucky, like Deku from My Hero Academia, I might just make it more round. So this part is totally just depending on what you're going for. I'm going to apply just a slightly bit of a darker brown to this outer corner, just because it's not quite as dark as I want for Kageyama. But otherwise, you could just stop there. Like I said, I just want it a little bit darker in the crease. And that's typically all I do for eyeshadows. Sometimes I might warm it up by adding a little bit of like a warmer brown or orange tone, but for Kageyama, I'm just gonna leave it as is. This is all I'm gonna do for my eyeshadow on the top. Now, because this is me, and this is how I do my makeup for absolutely everything, I'm going to be applying orange eyeshadow under my eyes. I do recommend always applying some form of like more reddy toned eyeshadow under your eyes to appear more sunken in a little bit, maybe a little bit more tired. I find it helps really add to the effect. I add copious amounts because that's just me, but you don't have to do near as much. And you don't have to use orange. A reddish brown also really works really nicely for your under eye. It also helps you add more definition. I'm just somebody who really likes orange eyeshadow. I don't apply super intensely for a lot of my male characters unless I really want them to look over-exaggeratedly tired. I tend to only feather it out about this much, so just a little bit. It helps add something to it, you know? Because I decide I kind of want blush on Kageyama, I'm going to apply some of this orange to my nose and I'll blend it out with like an actual blush color here. This is optional. I typically don't add blush for male characters. I just kind of felt like doing it, and that's okay. Part of makeup is kind of doing whatever you feel is okay. If I do add blush for male characters, by the way, I tend to use a more mauve-y toned blush. I don't use anything like super pink or super red. Like, this is the color I tend to use. I don't actually know if they sell this color anymore. I've had it for a while. I just felt like adding a little bit of blush just to my nose. Well, I'll just run whatever on the brush on my cheeks. Just because sometimes I look really sickly pale otherwise. So another step we're going to do is we're going to line the eyes. I don't use like a straight eyeliner for male characters. Typically when I do cosplays I usually use like a black liquid liner, but for male cosplays I stopped doing that because I found I was looking too effeminate and I wasn't really getting the look I wanted. I still do use it for certain characters that I feel like would wear eyeliner, or I'll add a little bit more defined, but otherwise I use either a brown soft pencil liner that I can blend out really easily with my hands. This is some Physicians Formula thing, I don't know, I stole it from somebody. But I typically use like a dark eyeshadow. The eyeshadow in question I use is usually this color right here. It's not black, but it's really dark brown. It tends to be a lot softer and a lot less harsh, and I can blend it out a lot nicer. So I just do really close to my lash line on an angled brush. And you can wing it out, you could just line your eyes. I wing it out a little bit just for more definition and like shape changing, but that's about all I do. I do like soften it a little bit here, especially like towards the front with my finger. You could use a Q-tip as well. You could blend it out with an eyeshadow brush, but that's pretty much all I do. I do want to kind of just wing this out a little bit more. For characters that are more like pretty boys, in my opinion at least, I like to do a little bit more of a defined liner, but it's still a lot softer than compared to like jet black liquid liner. To finish up the eyes, I'm going to highlight my inner corner, but very, very lightly. I'm actually not even dipping this into anything. I'm just using the remnants of whatever highlight was on it, so it's very faint. Otherwise, I use like a really similar skin tone to me that's just slightly shimmery. This is just to help brighten it up a little bit so I don't look super sleep deprived. Because otherwise, a lot of the darkness is a little too much. You need just a little something to help you wake up. Now, just because I got some foundation and powder on my eyelashes, I'm just gonna really lightly brush this mascara through it. Like, I'm barely touching it. Because I tend to like having slightly less visible lashes for male makeup. I do thicker brows for men usually. I don't like to do thinner brows. Thin brows just don't look good on my face. I see some people though that do like the thin anime brows and look really good with it though. But I'm gonna do fairly straight angled brows for Kageyama because he's always angry and always is frowning. Alright, so now that our brows are on, we're gonna do lips. I know a lot of people who tend to coat their lips in foundation or concealer, and I used to do that, but I find it gets too chalky and it gets like clumpy and cracky and just doesn't look good after a couple hours. They do make balms meant for like covering up your lips. I think MAC makes one, if I'm correct. I don't know. I've never actually used them. So what I actually do is, for the most part, I will just take a bit of foundation, what's ever left on my sponge, and do the edges of my lips. So that way there's not a defined, like, edge to my lips. And then taking a nude liquid lipstick of your choosing, I'm gonna just buff it into my lips. Just put a little on and buff it in. And if you find that it made your lips a little too defined, like I kind of think it did, just go over it with foundation again. This way you still have color on your lips, it's not gonna crack as bad. As it fades away, like towards the center of your lips, it's going to look a little bit more natural and it's easy to touch up because you're using lipstick. You could define it a little bit more. Sometimes I put brown eyeshadow in the middle, or I might add like a colored lip tint. Like I'll put some on right now just for funsies. I have like a dusty rosy color. It's best to buff it just in the center of your lips though, don't bring it out too much. This way you have like a more toned down lip color as opposed to having like a bright lip color. Sometimes I apply highlighter. You don't have to, it depends on the character. I might add a little bit. Just whatever's left on my brush yet again, so it's not super like defined. It's better to use actually a matte highlight or a less sparkly, shimmery one. A very, like, a subtle highlight is the term I'm going for. I don't own one of those, so I just apply what's left on my brush so it's not as defined. And with that, we're gonna throw on our wig. Right. And with that, that is all I do. I really don't do much. It's a super easy makeup for me to do. I can bust it out in 30 minutes if I'm on a time crunch. There's always different things like you can add to this makeup. You could add different colors, you could add more makeup, you could add scars and do all sorts of fun things with it, and you can change it up to fit really any male character. I hope this makeup tutorial helped you if you're somebody who's struggling doing more masculine makeup. But just remember, no matter what kind of makeup you do, it's always correct. There is no right or wrong way to do makeup. It all is depending on preference. Play around with makeup. You're gonna find new things that you never thought you would have liked before, but that you really like now. You know, ask me a year ago and I said I would have never been doing makeup like this for male characters and I would have hated it, but now it's the only way I like doing it. So just remember that you can do whatever you want. Cosplay is cosplay, it's fun, and I'll see y'all in the next video.